Good evening. You are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Truce in Aleppo enters its second day amid European calls for an extension. The EU leaders call African countries for tightening controls to prevent the flow of illegal migrants to Europe. And at least 11 workers are killed in clashes and attacks in the Iraqi city of Kirkuk. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. Russia's foreign minister said Al-Qaeda-linked militants in Aleppo are refusing to leave the besieged Syrian city along humanitarian corridors created by the Russians and Syrian forces. Sergei Lavrov told reporters today that Russia is seriously concerned that despite the gestures of goodwill from Moscow and Damascus, the fighters from other Al-Qaeda affiliate, previously known as the Nusra Front, are refusing to leave the city. Lavrov said Aleppo civilians are also being prevented from leaving the eastern rebel-held part of the city through the corridors. A pause in the Aleppo fighting was announced this week by Russia to allow civilians and opposition fighters and militants in eastern Aleppo to leave. Rebels have rejected the offer, saying it isn't serious. Residents have said they fear being arrested by government forces if they evacuate. A humanitarian pause in the Syrian army's Russian-backed assault on Aleppo took effect. But despite a drop in violence, there was little sign residents were heeding calls to leave. Moscow said the ceasefire will be extended by 24 hours, and the United Nations said it hoped to carry out the first medical evacuations from Aleppo today, after getting clearance from all warring parties. Meanwhile, the Syrian military said that it would bring down any Turkish warplanes entering Syrian airspace, a response to airstrikes carried out by Turkey last night in northern Syria. European Union leaders pledged today to keep all options open to respond to any atrocities committed by the Syrian government, but stopped short of threatening Moscow with sanctions. Despite strong rhetoric against Russia's military actions in Syria, the leaders failed to agree on a tough joint statement, sending a clear message to Moscow that it could face punitive measures. As they debated ways to take a unified approach toward President Vladimir Putin, Russian warships steamed toward the English Channel on their way to the Mediterranean, bound for the waters of Syria, watched by the NATO navies. European Council President Donald Tusk, after chairing the first day of a two-day summit in Brussels, said that Russia's strategy is to weaken the EU. European Union leaders agreed to step up their efforts to curb illegal migration from African countries with the aim of replicating their success in halting inflows from Turkey over the past year, while migrants reaching Greece from Turkey have dropped to a trickle after a deal with Ankara in March. Arrivals in Italy from Africa are increasing so far this year. Italy received 154,000 migrants last year, and this year's figure is likely to be higher. Only on Thursday, more than 1,400 boat migrants were rescued off the coast of Libya. To curb flows along the so-called central Mediterranean route, where thousands of migrants drown every year as they make the dangerous journey, the EU is offering trade deals and investment to African countries. In exchange for financial support, EU leaders require their African partners to impose tighter border controls and to take back illegal migrants.
Ich glaube, wenn allein das jetzige
Daesh group militants armed with assault rifles and explosives attacked targets in and around the northern city of Kirkuk today, in an assault that appeared aimed at diverting Iraqi security forces from a massive offensive against the militant-held city of Mosul. At least 11 workers were killed when Daesh militants stormed a power plant north of Kirkuk and then blew themselves up. Witnesses, meanwhile, said multiple explosions rocked the city and gun battles were ongoing. Much of the fighting was centered on a government compound in the city. Hundreds of flights, ferries, and buses were delayed or even canceled in Hong Kong as Typhoon Haima approached the area today. The typhoon made landfall nearing Hong Kong in Shanwei City of South China's Guangdong province, with wind gusts up to 162 kilometers per hour. The typhoon, when hitting the Philippines, had already killed at least 12 people and inundated vast tracts of rice and corn fields. Still to come in our news bulletin. Spring season started in the wilaya of Del Hout among an urgent need for more tourism facilities. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Oman oil price December delivery reached $49.92. The Dubai Mercantile Exchange said that the price of Oman oil declined 79 cents from the price of yesterday. The average price of Oman oil November 2016 delivery has stabilized at $43.92. Thus 10 cents per barrel lower than October 2016 delivery. In order to encourage horse owners in the Sultanate, the first race of horse racing season, organized by the Royal Horse Racing Club, started at Al-Rahba Racecourse in the Wilaya of Barka. The race will be continued until April. In the first round, named Al-Jabal Al-Akhdar and allocated for purebred Arabian horses for a distance of 1,600 meters, the horse Ajdal Dujarlan, owned by Saeed bin Ali Al-Riyami, came first. The second round, named Jabal Shams for hybrid purebred horses for a distance of 1,600 meters, the first place was won by the horse Hantaj Ritz, owned by Saud bin Abdullah al-Belushi. In the third round, named Jabal Darbat for a distance of 1,600 meters for purebred Arabian horses, the horse Sawah, owned by Yasser bin Mahmoud al-Kindi, won the first place. High-level and well-bred horses entered the Sultanate as the owners of horses are seeking to acquire the best breeds for competition. At the same time, the horse racing has good outputs as the horsemen are competing at the Gulf states and at overseas levels. At the end of the event, the sponsor handed over the trophies to the winners. Within the framework of its program aiming to broaden youth understanding of remote-controlled model plays, Nizwa Cultural Center organized workshops on how to maneuver drones. The workshops also highlighted solar energy and its uses. It witnessed a wide participation of youth who were briefed on aviation science, types of remote-controlled planes, their essential parts, and how they work. The workshops came within the cultural program being implemented by the center. The events of the second exhibition for female photographers who were honored by medals and titles from the International Federation for Photography Art (FIAB) is continued in the premises of Omani Photography Association. The 10-day exhibition included various photographic works taken by 23 female photographers from 13 countries. The inauguration ceremony was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Abdel Manam bin Mansour Lahsani, Minister of Information. Spring season started in the wilaya of Delqut in the governorate of Dhofar. The season is one of the main elements that attract tourists to visit the wilaya, which is famous for its touristic potentials like green mountains. Citizens in the wilaya of Delqut notified concerned bodies to activate the role of small and medium enterprises and the private sector in general to establish projects that support tourism movement in the wilaya. The wilaya is 180 kilometers west of Salalah city. It is surrounded by mountains from one side and by the sea on the other. The wilaya is famous for corn crops, which is harvested during the spring season, in addition to cucumber and beans. As an increasing number of tourists are visiting the governorate, it is necessary that the authorities should provide more facilities and services in order to encourage the large influx of tourists to the wilaya. Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the most of the governorates with chances of low clouds and fog early morning and late at night on the coast of the governorates of South Sharqiya and Wusta. Winds will be north to northeasterly light to moderate over the coast of the Sea of Oman, while along the rest of the coast it will be south to southeasterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight along most of the coast with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Truce in Aleppo enters its second day amid European calls for an extension. The EU leaders call African countries for tightening controls to prevent the flow of illegal migrants to Europe. And at least 11 workers are killed in clashes and attacks in the Iraqi city of Kirkuk. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.